So I welcome everyone to today we'll be exploring a bit of Kabir ji here, intermingled with Tagore ji also, because as I was sharing with all of you on the WhatsApp group also, that there is this little book by Tagore, Rabindranath Tagore, where he has translated uh, in his own language, English. He's translated Kabir ji's verses and bhajans, many of them. So I think it's very worthy that we pick something from there, because we know that the translations are going to be beautiful. We have a surety there. So that's why I picked up something from that little book. And this the Hindi bhajan I have pasted in the chat window here for all of you who want the Hindi version. Just do it again for those of us who have joined later. Yeah. So I'll just read the Hindi version and then we can go over the English and take a pause and share our reflections. Maya taji na jaye avdu, Maya taji na jaye, गिरह तज के बिस्तर बांधा, बस्तर तज के फेरी, काम तजेते क्रोध न जाई, क्रोध तजेते लोभा, लोभ तजे अहंकार न जाई, मान बड़ाई शोभा, मन बैरागी माया त्यागी, शब्द में सुरत समाई, कहे कबीर सुनो भई साधो, यह गम बिरले पाए. Gum means the gully or the way to truth. So what Tagore ji shares here along these lines is, tell me brother, how can I renounce Maya? When I gave up the tying of ribbons, still I tied my garment about me. When I gave up tying my garment, still I covered my body in its folds. So when I give up passion, I see that anger remains. And when I renounce anger, greed is with me still. And when greed is vanquished, pride and vain glory remains. When the mind is detached and casts Maya away, still it clings to the letter. So let us take a pause and reflect either Hindi or English version, and then we can share our reflections. Yeah, so one by one, as we are ready, just again, as we have been sharing, it's just how we connect to these lines, and it is totally, we are totally free how we are connecting to these lines. Somebody may be connecting in a way where other can't really connect in that way, so that's completely fine. What these lines are meaning to you, why these lines are resonating, if at all, to you, that is what we'll be sharing here one by one. Yeah.
So, Monica, I'll share what's coming up for me. Um, Monica, you can hear me?
Yes, please, Aditi, go ahead.
Okay. Okay, okay. Yeah, so I'll share what's coming up for me. What's coming up for me is I think like last time when we were doing some lines from Tagore's poetry, I think the first thing that stood out for me there was that, okay, even he could feel this way, even so it's not a, so that less alone feeling and that I had felt last time. I think I'm feeling it again when we are discussing Kabir today. And so the first thing is that, okay, you're not alone. This is, at every step, there are people who have gone through it, and it's okay to be where you are. Because as I had shared with you, that there are certain decisions that I want to take, and I take two steps towards the decision, and I take one step back from the decision because of exactly what is being mentioned in these lines. I keep getting entangled in something or the other. Either pride comes, or um I don't know, greed comes, maybe disturbance in the status quo. So many different, exactly what is mentioned in these lines. All these things keep coming, and they just come like, those snakes, and they crawl near your feet, and they just clutch it, and they stop you from moving forward. And in moments of clarity, you see yourself taking those strides very, very confidently, very smoothly, very peacefully. But then, um, then at other times you feel very crippled by these thoughts and feelings. So yeah, so I'm just, it's just making me realize that it's a long journey. As long as you're taking small baby steps in the direction, I think I should be compassionate with myself that I'm making progress, and be tolerant and self-compassionate when I get crippled by these feelings which I experience in my own journey. So yeah, thank you.
Beautiful. Yeah. Thank you so much, Aditi. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Anyone who wants to share their reflections next?
Monica ji,
Yes, Maya ji, please.
yeah, Maya here. Yeah, I joined in 5 minutes late, but I'm reading this verse, and what comes to my mind is that we have to continue to renounce something or the other. We think we have renounced something which is very important to us, and yet we have to continue to renounce bit by bit more. And we may think we have renounced the greatest prized possession or feeling or whatever is dear to us, but there is still more. There's still more. And I think that would be boiled down to renouncing our ego, which is within. So that's what comes to my mind.
Yeah, yeah. I think I like what you said. We have to just continue, keep
Sorry, could you hear
renouncing.
me?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. You were audible. Yeah, you were audible. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So I was sharing that the line that you shared, that we have to constantly keep renouncing because something or the other keeps on sticking to us. I think that's as if it's the key, that something or the other will be sticking on and off, on and off. There would be times where nothing is sticking. Then there would be times again something becomes too sticky. We have to be very vigilant and see on our guard, as mother shares, the vigilance. Or Kabir also talks about satarkta. You have to be on your guard, work as a chokidar on your guard, and see what all is sticking and keep on renouncing continuously. Yeah, yeah,
Thank you.
yeah. Anyone who wants to go next? So at this moment, those of us who are waiting for others to share and they want to go last, I would like to request them that if they have anything, and if you are thinking that I want to go last, just share, because everyone is thinking like that. So we'll just be just sitting, together all the time, and we'll not be sharing them. So please share anything that is coming to you. Yeah.
See, what strikes me is that there is an inability in us to identify what are the various encumbrances that tie us down. We see only the immediate and we don't see the whole. And therefore, when we try to be free, we think that we have got rid of something because that is something which has been staring us in our face. And having succeeded in doing that, for example, what is talks about the dress. When you, even when you have got rid of the ribbons or garment, then even then you find some folds remain. Something or other keeps remains. So he is focusing on our inability to see what are the various encumbrances and the invisible ones which may not be immediately troubling you. I think there is a finger in that direction brought out by the English translation. I can't so much understand the Hindi part of it, but from the English translation.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that would be, that would bring out the importance of continuing to check within. We are so much engaged in external, the world that we live in, that we forget to check in. We forget to constantly be in touch with this inner space, which is the guiding light. And we then land up in too much of darkness, too much of difficulty, overwhelmed with the chaos of all these feelings of calm, krodh, lobh, and moh. And I used to actually think as a child, I used to think, what are these? I won't understand, why are they telling us to be away from calm, krodh, lobh, and moh? I could not get it actually. Maybe I was too young, I needed more experiences. But now, more and more, it is just like clear, very, very clear, that why would they warn us against all these so-called vices? Because they would not appear as vices, as to me as a young adult or young child. They would not appear to me as vices. They would appear to me as a way of life. Anger, everybody has it. Greed, everybody has it. Lust, talk about pride, vanity, everybody has it. So then what are they talking about? I would actually, now I can, go back and see that I would actually think about it, that why are they saying to be away from these vices? Why are they calling it vices? And now I see that, oh my god, it's so true that when I am fully kind of puppeted by anger, I am not myself. I've lost myself. The angry one is not me. And then later on I regret that, why did I say that when I was angry? Why couldn't I just check within and take a little pause? So same with greed, same with the places where we are attached. And why they are called as Maya? Because I'm just kind of sharing my own reflections here, that Maya has been called as a thin curtain between you and the divine. So the divine is the one who is complete, whole, who does not need anything for its existence. And we as an individual think that I need this or that for my existence. That person should agree, that thing I should have, that money, that power, that relationship, all that should get fixed so that I can be whole. So we place our wholeness as if dependent on something external. And even our body is external. When I say that I will be whole when my body will be completely healthy, then I am again placing a burden on the expectation on my body, which is external, saying that when my body will be complete, only then I can feel content, joyous, and happy, which is my true nature. So at every moment, whenever I place this expectation of happiness and contentment on an external source, consider yourself as an external source, there the Maya comes as a veil. You are not feeling whole, then you are feeling scattered, you are feeling incomplete. And that is the curtain of Maya, as they say. And I'm just reflecting upon it, not that I know what Maya is, but this appears very, very clear, that whenever this curtain appears in front of me, that if I don't get that, then there is something incomplete in my life that separates me from the divine. And that is the curtain of ignorance, which is Maya. So that's what he's sharing here. How can I renounce Maya? Tell me, brother. It's so hard. Even if, so when he goes one by one he goes, and the last line he reaches, he says that when the mind is detached from every external situation, even then it's clinging to a letter. Maybe the letter is Om. Maybe it's Om that is going on in a chant in your being, which is keeping you away from all those places where you could get attacked, but you are still attached to Om. You are still attached to the image of your guru. So tell me how to, how to cast away Maya. And then in the Hindi version, he says that यह गम विरले पाए. It's only the rare one, only a rare one who would find this street or this way towards truth. It's not an easy path to be found. They say truth is a pathless path. So there is no one path to truth. There is no path maybe to truth, because truth is all there is. I don't know. I'm just kind of, challenging or invoking reflections on it. Yeah. And the sentence where he says that when greed and anger are renounced, then what remains is glory. You're basking in the glory. Oh my God, I have renounced greed. I have renounced anger. I am now free of anger and attachment. So that glory, that vain glory, still remains. Again works as Maya. So creates your separate individuality. Anything that keeps you separate from the whole, from the oneness, that is Maya. And that is why when on the path of surrender we talk about, what is the path of surrender? It's like a wave crashing back into the ocean. The wave has ceased to be. The wave now does not exist as a separate wave. It knows itself as the ocean. This is what we call as the union of the separate self or the ego in the wholeness or in the oneness of the being. And then we know that we have moments when we feel that or touch that, and then the Maya comes back again, in a different form, in a beautiful disguise, and then we are swayed by the wave again. And that is what Aditi was sharing, that I see that again and again we have just to be on the path, and we are all facing similar issues, as human beings. Tagore has faced it, Kabir has faced it. Otherwise, why would he say that Bura jo dekhan main chala, bura na milya koi? He must have seen something inside himself. Why would he say that? He's not talking always about other people. I'm sure that he's looking at himself and seeing that, yes, all the criminal tendencies I see in myself. Yeah. So please share your reflections, if any.
Nika, since you mentioned ocean, I am reminded of an imagery where it is said a salt particle, when it gets into the sea, there is no more salt particle. You're part of the whole. Now, then that identity of self, it is immaterial, doesn't exist anymore. So
Absolutely.
in that sense, that oceans that you mentioned,
Yeah.
suddenly reminded me of that imagery.
Yeah. Beautiful. Mother talks about the surrender, the path of surrender. Mother has spoken a lot on the path of surrender. Her whole life has been the path of surrender. So she says that first it's like ego is the helper, ego is the bar. First one has to create a beautiful individuality, and that's where ego is a helper. That you are creating You are finding out, you are discovering who I am truly. What are the uniquenesses about me, and what am I good at, what am I not good at. When we talk about developing your personality or finding your own individuality, not always looking at what society wants and that is what I do. What do you want? What gives you joy and harmony within the being? So first, this has to be trodden upon, this path where you go and find your own unique individuality. That's what she says, the psychic individuality. So the ego is a helper there. And then once you have beautifully formed your individuality, then with this tokra, this thing that you have prepared, you offer it at the feet of the divine. So it's like, first the ego is necessity, in our life, where one has to recognize who I am, what am I good at, what am I not good at, and then develop a kind of a personality around that. And then slowly to surrender that personality, to surrender your whole self as service to humanity, or your offering to this world. As you were saying, that salt particle. So first it is a salt particle, and then when it goes into the water, it is no more there. It is one with the ocean. Yeah. So any more reflections on this one? Anyone?
Monica, I was also considering what you had said about, the separation, like when I believe that that thing on the outside is going to, then I'll be okay, right? Whatever that is. In that moment, when it's at its peak, I'd never really made the connection with that is the Maya, right? Because it seems so absolutely ironclad that without that thing that in that moment my mind has clamped onto, seems absolutely impossible that I can be okay. Like how insistent it can seem, or how 100%, and then to come out of it, or just be reminded, like when you said that, of like, oh wait, goodness, that's the nature of Maya. It can just come in about anything and everything that's not to do with center or the divine, or what is within.
Absolutely. I think, Swapna, that is the importance of satsangat, as they say. That is the importance, because when the Maya will be at its peak, अच्छे अच्छों की लग जाती है. Kabir says that even the sadhak who is truly on this path, he has to be always vigilant till the time he has breath in his body, because you don't know, the nature of the Maya is so illusory that you cannot say that I have overcome it. You cannot say that, because you don't know in which form she is going to attack next. Yeah, so that's why this whenever you are feeling okay, when there are times which are good times, use those good times or okay times where you're not too overwhelmed with challenges and darkness and emotions, so that you are preparing for the fact that yes, whenever it strikes next, I know I will be swayed, but at least I'll be prepared. I would see that I am swayed, and then what to do about it, or depends on the contextual situation all the time. But yes, that is the importance of satsangat, or just having a habit of continuing with contemplating on words which are full of light and truth. Because if you see, anyway, 24/7 we are contemplating on something or the other. Our minds are not silent. Let us agree that our minds mostly are not silent. Our minds are mostly running. So why not run them in a direction which brings peace and clarity, so that when peace and clarity are gone, then they can be of a little use. Because in the middle of the challenge, it's very hard to see that, oh my God, it's the work of Maya and attachment. Yeah. And I think whenever we are swayed by attachments and our bondages, our ties, which anger, greed, lust, call it anything, I think it also brings us back to ground, because being on the path, we also have, not even wanting it, but we begin to develop this vain glory that, I have been on the path, and I know, this just develops by side. It's not our doing, but it's just happening as an effect, as a byproduct. And when we are just on our knees again, swayed by Maya in its big intensity, it's good to get grounded again. So for me, it has been really all the time. Every time I have faced a beautiful darkness or challenge, yes, it has been painful and full of suffering, but it has also gotten me again and again on the ground. It's very grounding in nature, these blows. Yeah. So anything more, anyone on these lines? I think one thing which I'm seeing here is also to channelize the life force. You know, see, he says, when I give up passion, anger remains. When I renounce anger, greed remains. When I greed, when greed is vanquished, vain glory remains. So it is the work of that life Shakti. The Shakti has to get channelized somewhere. And that's why, we talk about in our sessions that whenever we are de-addicting ourselves from all the places where we get bonded and where we get burdened, like anger, greed, or all these desires that we run after, it's also very important to channelize the energy to some place where you feel it is worthy. For some people it may be art, for some people it may be reading, for some people it may be serving people socially, for some people it may be just pick up anything, cooking or whatever, just any little tasks where our life energy can get channelized, because it is this restless life energy that boggles us, especially in young age and also in adult age also. In young age the energy is at its peak, it's like bumping up and down, and that's where we go wrong. Most of the times we just fall into on our nose again and again because we don't know what to do with this restless energy. So it's beautiful if we can find out our natural inclinations. For example, somebody may be interested in baking, somebody in clay modeling, anything, pick up anything on this earth, infinite number of possibilities. But parallelly, as we are saying no to passion, greed, saying no because we realize that they are just making us fall on our nose again and again, we also have to parallelly rehabilitate ourselves. We have to put ourselves in a proper direction. Because if I'm just saying no, 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 मैं cigarette नहीं पीऊंगा, no, no, मैं cigarette नहीं पीऊंगा, this is not going to work. अगर मैं cigarette नहीं पी रहा, what am I doing parallelly? For those people who want to leave cigarette, I'm just taking an example here, that if I want to leave something which now is not helping me really, so what am I parallelly focusing at? Because the life energy is going to go bonkers again in some time. So, and that it must go bonkers because we are here for a purpose. We have something to flower in our being. And if we do not give it time and attention, it will sway me up and down all the time. And it happens with all of us. We don't know what to do with our time. We don't know what to do with so much of energy. And when we don't know what to do, then all these thoughts come up, especially the disturbing and negative ones, and they just go bonkers and create health issues, emotional issues for us. So parallelly, it's also advisable, even in mother's reflections also, it's advisable to find out what am I good at, what am I not good at, and develop kind of your own life from that, create your own life from that. Okay, so I'm assuming there is nothing more from here in these lines. Let me just share something else. Okay, Nikhil says nothing from you. Okay. So anything you guys have, any doha or anything that you have read, if you want to share, that would be welcome. So I'm sharing a couplet here. कबीर निज घर प्रेम का, I'll just share in English also. कबीर निज घर प्रेम का, मारग अगम अगाध, शीस उतारे पग तली धरे, तब निकट प्रेम का स्वाद. So in Hindi he says, अपना खुद का घर तो इस जीवात्मा का प्रेम ही है. We often find ourselves hearing that love is our truth, love is our nature, our essence is love. Yeah. मगर वहां तक पहुंचने का रास्ता बड़ा विकट है. Now all of us know how entangled our relationships become. In the name of love, we just have attachments mostly. In the name of love, we try to control, overpower relationships. And no wonder that we get into more and more deep entanglements. And I wonder then, do I really know love? Or is it all just attachment and not really love? Because if love was there, why would there be so much misery and suffering and entanglement? Yeah. So one thinks about it. I'm just kind of reflecting. एंड ही सेज दैट मगर वहां तक का पहुंचने का रास्ता, प्रेम तक पहुंचने का रास्ता इतना विकट है और लंबा कि उसका कहीं छोर ही नहीं मिल रहा. वेयर टू स्टार्ट फ्रॉम. इट्स लाइक a kind of knots and knots and knots that we have and we don't know where to start from. प्रेम रस का स्वाद तभी सुगम हो सकता है जब अपने सिर को उतारकर उसे पैरों के नीचे रख दिया जाए. So we have to cut off our heads. That's why Kabir ji says it's the path of a warrior. The path of love and surrender is path of a warrior. Because you have to take the sword, pick the sword up again and again, cut your head off. And what does it mean? We will share one by one. And he says that your own home is the home of love. That's what he says in the couplet. Your own home, your true home is the home of love. और उसका मार्ग, the way towards that home is very, very hard. It's trodden with difficulties. शीस उतारे पग तली धरे. So you cut off your head and place it at the feet. Only then you can have a little taste of love, true love. Yeah. So please take a moment, take a pause and share whatever comes to you. Yeah, so anyone who feels ready or have anything at all to a few lines, anything, just unmute and share.
Monica, I'll just share one thing.
Yes, Aditi.
I think I've realized of late that I will not realize, it's getting reinforced for me that I struggle to surrender. I go in that zone where I do go in the zone where I get to experience that complete faith and surrender. But then I very quickly get out of it because my whole nature of, being able to control outcomes, control everything around me. That's how the mind has been for so many years. So it steps in and it hijacks me to say that, you're not in control because you're not used to it. So it's hard to stay in that state, but still I keep trying to just go in that nothingness and, just press a pause button on the mind. But reading these lines is giving me little bit more confidence that it's a hard journey, but one worth continuing on, because mind can only take you this far, and it's not really able to give me what probably I'm looking for. So yeah, I think it's a reinforcement that I should continue on the path, and even if it's slow and it's tedious, and the outcomes are not very clear, and which I'm used to, but the joy of surrender which I get to experience sometimes, just going and tapping into it is helping me in bringing myself to go there again and again. That keep doing it, keep revisiting. It's okay, stay on the path. So yeah, that's what I wanted to share. Thank you.
Yeah, beautiful. Yes. Thank you. Yeah.
Like you were saying about in the beginning with love, or so many times in relationships, one can feel like, I'm justified, right? I'm justified in trying to control. I'm doing it for the good of the relationship or for the other, or somehow like I have a right, to whatever it is that's being demanded of the other. How that does cause so much pain and suffering and stress. And there's this kind of sense of, well, that's natural. And that's somehow a normal way, isn't it, in our world or in our society? And that this is indicating that this also Mother and Sri Aurobindo, say like what we humans know as love, or what we call love, is not what is close to divine love, or what is being called of us even. But I'm just struck with how normal it can all seem. The suffering, the struggle, the wanting to control the other, and some having a right to do so. And how many years and years can go on like that?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Totally with you, Swapna. Absolutely. I think more and more it's almost a realization, as you are sharing, for us, that all that we have been doing in the name of love was mostly just a big emotional mixture, as Mother shares, full of egos and its demands and expectations and wanting to control, which is nothing but attachment. So Mother shares that so-called human love is nothing but a mixture. It's not that love is not there. There is a drop of love also, but it's mixed with, say, urine water, for example, or drain water. Drain water is our ego and its demands and desires and expectations and greed from the relationship and all that, and this sense of entitlement. And when it's mixed like that, it's almost works like poison. The love that is there, it's hardly visible, and all that we get is the pain and suffering due to the emotional mixture. And I believe that we are all there, and the path slowly is to sort this emotional mixture and to move towards more and more purity, not to feel ashamed about it, because that is how we start. This is the raw material that has been given to us. Yeah, so I feel that mother in her prayers and meditations shares that whenever I do any act not consecrated to thee, then what I do is that for a moment I'm sad, for a moment I feel it's childish and blameworthy also, but then immediately I plunge into thee, and from there I get light, strength to go on. So the thing is that we don't have to get too much into this feeling ashamed that, oh my God, I don't know nothing of love. All I have is attachment, because I've been there, done that, and I see that being in shame and guilt does not do us good. Just to recognize the mistake, recognize the mixture, and to move on from there, and uh, kind of give yourself to more and more purity. That's what a warrior has to do. There is no other path but this. Yeah. Yeah, Maya ji, you want? Okay, Swapna, please share. Yeah, please go ahead, Swapna.
I was just going to add, like, that promise of freedom, right? Like the freedom that comes when one is connected to the divine, or to the mother, that is inbuilt, that if one can be in love and be with the other, whatever the relationship, from this purer or freer love, that with it, there won't be a loss. Like it takes a leap of faith and it seems to require a lot of courage to take that risk, because ego can make it seem like, no, if I really let go the reins of control, then surely the other will go very far, or harm will come, or something somehow bad,
Yeah.
And actually it's the opposite.
Yeah.
So that promise.
Yeah. And we also have to see that, this harm that you're talking of, we see that the way we are having our relationships right now, full of attachment and suffering, I think that brings us more harm. Faith will do some good to the relationship, this leap of faith that you talked of. And I think that we are just being too overconfident that being who we are right now, a emotional mixture full of attachments, that is doing something good to the relationship, but that's almost serving like a poison every time. So yes, I'm completely with you when you share that, it brings more freedom in relationships, more courage. It requires a lot of courage. And love is courage and freedom. They go synonymous with each other. Love, courage, and freedom. Yeah, anyone else?
Yeah, this, can I? The Sir and Pair in the Doha, is talking about bringing the head at the feet. Now, the head is far away from the feet. The foot is connected to earth, which is the reality, and the head is far away from that. So at one level, it is talking about bring your ego down to the realities and realize that is at one level. At the other level, it is the question of where does love exist in our physical body. Now, generally we say it's in the heart and not in the head. Head is the place where your intellect, buddhi, resides. And buddhi is the source of your ego. So therefore, if you are totally surrendering in love, then the head has no place there. So you get totally connected to the earth. Earth, not in the physical sense of the earth, but nature, the environment, your core, all that comes in that imagery of earth. So that is the image, that is a connection that I can make out from the verse.
Beautiful. Yes, beautiful. Absolutely. Yeah. I think if we actually look at our problems, we will see that it's basically this, that we are always resisting the reality of our life. We are resisting the facts of our life. We are, as you said, that the head is far away from the reality, where our feet are. And that's what causes suffering, because if I have, say, lost someone, I'm not able to accept that that has happened. And that leads to misery or suffering. The heart is here and the feet are there on the ground, and it's on the reality that okay, this has happened, but the head does not want to accept it. It does not go according to the images I had planned my life. It does not go according to my plan, and that leads to a lot of suffering, before I can actually come on to the grounds and see that yes, it has happened, and now I have to actually be in love with it. There is no other way. Yeah, it takes a lot of courage to be there. Yeah.
I think I would agree with Mr. Unni's explanation, more so because when he says, "Si sutari pagtali dhare," it is your mind, intellect, ego has to go under your foot on ground level, and then only the heart can, or the psychic, whatever you call it,
can take over and actually show you what love is. Until this is working, that stays suppressed. So the way he explained it, it's only then that we will realize the value of the soul and your psychic and your heart, basically what you call the heart. So we have to give up the mental aspect at some point or the other if we want to perceive things which are deeper. And perception begins at the heart level and not the mind. That's what I understood.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely.
कहता है ना कि तब निकट प्रेम का स्वाद, तब तक स्वाद प्रेम का नहीं आएगा. So it has to be, that's the rule.
I'm also appreciating that, because if I just watch that experience in my body, to be reminded.
Yeah, Swapna, you've got muted. We can't hear you anymore.
Oh, can
Yeah.
you hear me now?
Yeah, please.
Sorry, I
restart.
don't know. Okay, sorry. I was saying that this explanation about the feet, the connection, is that I notice in my own body that it fills in my awareness, like the desires, the wanting it to be different, the control is up in my head. It's very mental. And in remembering my feet and connecting to the earth, there is a connection through my whole body. So there's a presence. There's both a presence in the body, and therefore the if you'd like, the cell's intelligence, or the body being right here, right now, the connection, if you'd like, Mother Earth. And then with it, the expansion and the courage to do what we were saying before, you know, to let loose, to trust, to allow love in its bigger form to manifest. But it's like a full body type of experience. And we've talked about this, you know, Monica, about this kind of somatic intelligence that the body then can help us access this deeper wisdom, and the heart's wisdom. Yes, that's how I was experiencing it very, very tangibly. So thank you.
Yeah, beautiful. Yes. Yeah, anyone else? Any more explorations or reflections on this? You know, it somehow happens that not even knowingly, we form plans about our life. You know, we have images about how my life should go on. We don't know that this is all happening really. You know, it's not a conscious doing, but it happens since we have a mind and we are thinking all the time. So we don't even know, and we have created a whole map about how I like things to be. Yet the whole intelligence of universe has some other plan, it seems, you know, and the intelligence is lying in me also. So I have a bigger plan for my life. And when things happen in our life, somehow the mind cannot take or accept the fact that, oh my God, it's not happening as I wanted. You know, there the ego comes into the picture. It's not happening as I wanted to go. And this is where faith and surrender comes into the picture, where one has to just validate or accept what is the present reality, as Unniji was sharing, you know, be on the ground at the reality level. And then from there, know that there is a higher intelligence which knows better than me and is guiding me on this path towards progress. You know, so there comes what Aditi was sharing, Swapna was sharing, you know, and Jyotsna ji was sharing, that mind then has to pause or slow down, and not in this extreme arrogance that it rushes forward, that my plans, you know, my plans are the best ones. And we don't even know that we are here for progress. You know, we lately slowly realized that we are here not for our plans working out, but for a progress of our individual personalities or soul, or whatever you say. And what matters to the intelligence is whether we are progressing or not. So it would not bother to give us bigger blows and thappads and slaps and all these that we get in life, because they make us progress. It's like a devout mother that we have all the time with us, who would not rest before the child gets on the path of progress. And that's where we have to go through all the pain and then find courage through that pain slowly. Whatever situations happen, we just have to accept them and bow down our head and recreate our newer life from there, that ground. Yeah.
Monica, one other thing that I just noticed literally in the last 48 hours is when I'm up in my head with all these desires or control mechanisms, or, what you just said, expectations about how my life should be, and then something different is happening, the struggle. And it's all up. It's very like up in my head and stuck almost. And then when this opening to something higher, be it love or God, and in this poem's case, this connection with the feet, and it's like a downward moving energy. I notice with it, often for me, the experience of peace and calming down in myself and the mind quieting is downward flow. And I'd never before noticed that the parallel with Sri Aurobindo's The Descent, right? That the force, the divine's help, is a descent into us. And it was the first time I'd correlated that very recently and found it very comforting. Just wanted to share.
That's really beautiful. Yeah, very beautiful. Yeah. I think in Savitri also there is one line, I think, where it says that no matter how inarticulate the call from below is, no matter how inarticulate you are able to express that you need help and you need guidance, no matter how inarticulate it is, maybe not even put in words, just a yearning, the descent is immediate. And the figure that he uses is like a falcon or an eagle stooping down, and coming for this help as you are sharing. Beautiful, beautiful. Yeah. Yeah, anyone else who has anything to share on these lines or anything else, please go ahead.
Monica, I'm just thinking that it also, I also feel very hopeful at this point. Like on one hand, when I read these lines, or when I'm struggling on this path sometimes, and I feel I take 2 steps forward and 1 step backward, but at the same time it fills me with a lot of hope that of what I'm yet to experience. Like, I have been experiencing life from such a narrow and limited vantage point, so to speak, right? Because mind has been doing its tricks, and it's probably been controlling the way I have been perceiving everything, conducting myself, taking my decisions, and so on. So I'm just also very hopeful that I I I might be able to really unleash something very beautiful and powerful for myself and for everybody else around me, right? Because if I have such a limited way of experiencing life, then the way I behave would also be limited. People around me would also experience me in a certain way. So I'm just very hopeful about what I'm going to experience in the days to come or years to come, and also what others around me or people close to me will experience in return. So yeah, it fills me with a lot of hope as well. I just wanted to share that.
Yeah, that's beautiful, Aditi. Totally with you. Yes, absolutely. It actually does bring us with hope, fill us with hope. Absolutely. I have no doubt about that. Yeah. And as you were sharing, in the beginning, that it also is very comforting to know that all of us are together on this journey. There's not anyone who has already reached and we are all kind of, as there is a quote, I was sharing with Swapna also, we are all walking each other home, and that's really beautiful that all of us are in this together. So that's really comforting to know. And yes, absolutely, when you say that there is more to come, and actually looking forward to that beauty and perfection and how it would change the lives in me and around me. Absolutely with you. Yeah. So I'll just maybe find another one here, last one to
So
share.
right now, Monica ji, I'm looking forward to this pandemic ending.
Yeah, all of us with you. Yeah. Yes. So I'm just finding one more couplet to share. In the meantime, if you have anything, any reflections to share, please. So taking this a very popular one here, most of you may have heard about it. जब मैं था तब हरि नहीं, अब हरि है मैं नहीं, सब अंधियारा मिट गया जब दीपक देखा माही. So there's another line that often is found. जब मैं था तब हरि नहीं, जब हरि है मैं नाही, प्रेम गली अति सांकरी जामे दो समाये नहीं. So the lane of love is too narrow where two cannot be. Two at a same time cannot exist. So in the first line he says, "Jab main tha," when I was, when the Lord, then the Lord was not. And Lord is synonymous with love, peace, tranquility, freedom, courage, joy. This is all synonymous with Lord. Jab main tha tab hari nahi. When I was, then all of this was not. Ab hari hai, main nahi. Now when contentment, joy, progress, freedom, strength, all is there, then I am not. I cease to exist. Sab andhiyara mit gaya, all darkness is gone when I see this light within me. Yeah, so just take a few moments and then we will share our reflections. So as and when we become ready, please start sharing. Yeah.
Monica ji, may I talk?
Please.
Please tell me if you can hear me. I'm in a.
Yes, you're audible.
Yeah. So what to me is that as I move from this journey from self-realization to God realization, as I move towards this journey, there is more and more illumination, there is more and more light, And then this whole process of moving, this whole process of my life and this whole process of evolution is more and more towards God realization. So when that happens, I become merged with that, the light, that living light, and that is God. And there is all peace and goodness. So self-realization, again, which is a very, very difficult, arduous journey, but from self-realization towards God realization. This is what comes to me. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for sharing. Yes. Yeah. Yes, anyone who wants to share next?
What I saw was this, tying it up with what we were saying about the controlling, say, drawing a thread between all of it, wanting to control another or a relationship thing, to say that here it seems like, okay, when I am aware of the divine and simply grow one with that, and that will, or that surrender, that faith, then the other ceases to exist, but from a good point of view, meaning this other human being in the relationship stops being something separate, external, that I need to control or possess or somehow say anything about. You know, the freedom can arise because it just becomes all the divine's path. And there's a lot of deep trust and a relief from not having to be the separate self that has to come to some kind of decision or make something happen or anything, right? The lack of control, the relief of that, just being able to be that baby kitten, we've used that analogy to, or just, you know, dropping into a mother's lap and saying, okay, you take all of it. There's elements of that in these two lines for me.
Yeah, beautiful. Yes. Yeah. Anyone who wants to share next?
For me, it is जब मैं न था तब हरि नहीं. When my ego, me, I was there was no divine. It was just me, I is the way we routinely live our lives. सब अंधियारा मिट गया जब दीपक देव्या माही, मीन देखा माही, मीन्स बट व्हेन जब हरि आए और मैं चला गया तब सब उजाला हो गया उन्हीं के दीपक से, मीन जो अंदर का दीपक होता. For me it was shedding of the ego, shedding me, shedding self, and invoking the divine is what gave the illumination. I understood it that way.
Beautiful. Yes. Yes. Beautiful. Yeah.
Can I? This is a very intriguing line. And to me, it is straight the Upanishad Vakya, Tattvamasi, thou art that. In that, see, it's a question of what is true, light or darkness. That is what we seem to be searching. But there's no need to search because one is built into the other. It's only a question of identifying and coming to know that one is no different from the other. So the darkness is built into light, just as light is built into darkness. So therefore, once that realization comes, one thinks that when there is light, there is no darkness, but that is built into it. Once that realization comes, there's no difference between that. That's what I think is pointing to.
Yeah, beautiful. Beautiful. Yes, absolutely. You know, this reminds me of Savitri's lines where the when Savitri is also talking to the Lord of Death, and how it is just a cloak, it's just an appearance or a disguise that it is, and it appears as the god of death, but it's hiding the eternal beneath that mask. So absolutely with you that all that darkness that appears as dark hides a beautiful light within it. And that is why we must not get trodden down by our challenges or dark phases of our life, because they have a light hidden behind them, only if we are ready to explore and discover it. And if it is still dark, it means we have not really gotten to the end. So we have to go more and more deeper, more and more persist. As Aditi was sharing, I'm waiting what is to appear, because then it only brings us with hope. When we are in our strength and courage, we are able to go through all the pain and challenge in our life, because we see that there is a light hiding beyond all that darkness, waiting to be discovered and waiting to be allowed to lead our life. So absolutely. And one has to know both as one. And that is where the concept of equanimity or samatha comes into picture. That if a person has seen light hiding in the darkness, then he would not be really wanting from the God, that give me all the pleasures and keep me away from the pain. He knows that in the pain also the eternal resides. So that's really beautiful. Yeah. Also the other thing that I saw here is that jab main tha tab hari nahi. So here the darkness, in the second line he says sab andhiyara mit gaya. So I feel there is also a resemblance of that as long as we live in the state of egoness, the darkness is going to persist. So ego is the darkness. Any amount of ego leads to suffering and darkness. Sab adhiyara mit gaya jab deepak dekha mai. And the moment I am able to go deeper into the roots of the ego and to find the truth residing at the depth, the core of the ego, what every ego wants. Every ego wants shanti. So the core of our roots of ego are also in truth. So if we are able to go from darkness to the roots of darkness, that would be the end, almost, at least in that phase, end of that dark phase. And we'll be able to grow from one light to greater light, as Sri Aurobindo says, one wisdom to greater wisdom, one illumination to greater illumination. And there is no end to it, because since divine is infinite, I cannot say that once I have done, I have realized. There are realizations after realizations, illuminations after illuminations. It's a never ending beautiful journey. Yeah. Yeah, anyone else who has not yet shared and has reflections, please share. This reminds me of also this quote by Rumi, where he has this uh, old man sitting with a key next to a cage. And he says, what surprises me is that throughout our life, we feel that we are imprisoned and the key is right next to us. So we don't even know that we are the one imprisoning ourselves in whatever darkness or, the trap that we find. And slowly we gather strength and courage that, okay, I have led myself here and I also have the capacity to leave this little cage or prison and find a newer life for myself. Yeah. Yeah, anyone else?
Monica, what you just shared makes me realize like this ego's wants, desires, specifics, right, is so imprisoning that creates a sense of narrowness, a sense of imprisonment, of walls coming in, constriction, and what all these lines and this time together has led is the sense of expansion, and that the freedom and the divinity, when one accesses it, is exactly that key. It's almost just like flipping, right? It's like flipping one's attention from mind and being stuck in the head or thoughts to stillness, and automatically it's like a turning a garment inside out. That
Absolutely.
simple.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think that's why Mother would say that, Mother and Sri Aurobindo would say that desires and yoga don't go together, and that's why people on the path of yoga or towards the divine, they suffer even intensely when they are succumbing to the desires, because all that one has to desire is closeness with the divine, and rest all will come and go and come and go and come and go. Yeah, so rest all has to be taken just like a prasad or a gift from the divine, and enjoyed the rasa as long as it's there, and then say thank you when it's not there. Yeah. What is the true freedom when we talk about being caged? So I'm not sure, Jashoda, that I understood what you are sharing. If possible, if you can unmute, then it will be nice.
Yeah, hi Monica. Yeah, I'm feeling a little weak. I've recovered from COVID. So yeah. We were talking about this, all of us living our life like caged animals. But deep down inside, we have this very strong urge to be free. But what exactly is freedom? What exactly does a free person do? How is a free person different from you and I? Is freedom overrated, or there is something really called, there is something called freedom, true freedom? And what does true freedom look like?
Yeah, interesting, beautiful. I think your question itself is so beautiful that we need not respond over it. I think we can contemplate over it, definitely. But no response would be good enough to this beautiful question, I would say. I think it reminds me of one words by Sri Aurobindo and Mother, that true freedom is freedom from desires, freedom from this habitual, this patterns of thinking and emotional patterns. True freedom is that freedom, and we can only reflect about it. How would that be in our context? But yeah, I feel that it would be hard to imagine about it. One can just see in those moments when we are not, there are moments, there are moments when we are not really trapped. It may be it may be just a few interludes or passing phases, but there are moments when we are not caged by our desires and conflicting thoughts and wills. And how are they like? So one can just reflect over that, or if anyone has to share anything.
Thank you, Monica.
So I'll just take a moment, because Jashoda has shared something beautiful. So let me just share a few lines and then we can maybe end. From Savitri. Yeah. Was then the sun a dream because there is night? Hidden in the mortal's heart, the eternal lives. He lives secret in the chamber of thy soul. A light shines there, nor pain nor grief can cross. A darkness stands between thyself and him. Thou canst not hear or feel the marvelous guest. Thou canst not see the beatific sun. O Queen, thy thought is a light of ignorance. Its brilliant curtain hides from thee God's face. How beautiful, crisply and clearly, thy thought is a light of the ignorance. So that separates me from that light hiding within me is the curtain of ignorance, is the curtain of thought, which we have been using and abusing in our lives. Thought has been abusively abused in our lives. So I think time to just tread on the path or go on and see that where are the places where thought is really not required, and let it be. Let the curtain aside and let the light shine out, which is hiding. Yeah. So thanks everyone for joining and sharing beautiful reflections. And Jashoda, wishing you a beautiful and quick recovery. More power to all of us. Thank you for joining and sharing.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks.
Thank you.